welcome to Policing TV. We're at the county showground in Staffordshire, not far from Staffordshire Police's force headquarters, and I'm here with Chief Superintendent Emily Clarke, who leads for the force not just on local policing but also on rural policing. So Emily, thank you so much for giving time to Policing TV. Tell us about how it was that in the last 6 months Staffordshire Police has set up this dedicated rural crime team. How did that all come about?
So firstly, we've had a really long history of rural crime investigations and working with the rural communities, but we recognise that our emphasis had mainly been around heritage crime and wildlife crime, and we recognised that we needed to do more for the community of Staffordshire that were particularly being harmed by more acquisitive crime in the rural areas. And I attended a rural crime forum at Amerton Farm, which is not far from here, in just the other side of over there. And we met with a number of people from the farming community who gave their views and some very personal experiences. And just from that meeting, I recognised that we needed to do something perhaps a little bit differently. And I was able to secure some posts for a dedicated team that could work more proactively around tackling rural crime.
So that was initiated back in March. You persuaded the Chief Constable and the Police and Crime Commissioner, Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner, I think, here in Staffordshire, to support this. And from that original determination to make that improvement, you've established now a dedicated team, I think, of 14 officers in total.
Yes, that's right.
That covers or has responsibility for rural crime issues. But it's not just those 14, is it? It goes beyond that.
Yeah, so the dedicated team came about because we recognised we needed some more proactivity in that area. So they will work predominantly around some of the more high value theft type offences, so farm machinery, tools, high value vehicles, so all those sort of crimes that are, from an acquisitive perspective, that are harming the rural communities. But what we have got as well is around about 70 officers that work across the force. 70, so a substantial number. So substantial number. That's alongside their day jobs. So they're predominantly based within neighbourhood policing, so PCSOs, PCs, and response policing, but we also have some that are in the ops world and some that are in CID, and they've all had an enhanced level of training to understand wildlife crime, heritage crime and rural crime, and really work with communities to understand the issues that are affecting them.
These are quite complex areas, aren't they? So first of all, quite diverse areas. You've mentioned some of the areas of responsibility here, ranging from protection of endangered species and habitats, through to safeguarding and recovering stolen farm machinery and so on and so forth. And some of the aspects of the law are quite challenging as well.
Yes.
These are not the sorts of things that your a typical police constable, despite best efforts, will know too much about. So the specialist areas, the specialist knowledge is quite important.
Yes, it is, and I think the particularly the heritage and wildlife part of it. But the good thing there is that there's a legislative framework to work from. So we train our officers in that legislative framework, and then they can support other officers when we have to do those sort of investigations. And we've had some really good results from that, particularly around wildlife crime. In terms of the rural side, so the more acquisitive side, or the crime that predominantly impacts the rural communities, that's just standard crime, if you like, but it's just the fact that it has
a burglary in a rural community is upsetting and distressing to the householder, whether it's in a rural community or an urban community.
It is, but what we've recognised, particularly with the rural community, is there's two factors that I think make it slightly different. People live and work within that area, and sometimes, well, quite often their home is also their business, particularly for the farming community, but other people who work in the rural communities as well. But also the communities are by nature more isolated, so the fear of crime can be more than in some of our more built up areas. So recognising that, and recognising that we do perhaps need a slightly bespoke approach to managing rural crime, I think is what our communities wanted, and what I'm hoping that we'll be able to deliver.
So just paint a picture for those not familiar with Staffordshire. Perhaps they're watching this from outside the United Kingdom. What's the sort of makeup of the Staffordshire Force area in terms of urban-rural mix?
Yeah, so it's a large area, a large rural area, and about 72-73% of the area is classed as rural. We do have some cities and larger towns in the county, but it's all made up of lots of little rural communities, in particular some market towns, and we rely very much on the rural communities and rural businesses within Staffordshire, and it's right that we're supporting them.
So we're actually in the county town of Staffordshire. Stafford, I should say. Staffordshire here. Although I'm just going to spin the camera around a moment. So the county showground. So the label at the top of that stand says Staffordshire Agricultural Society. Lots of greenery here. A bandstand here. The Staffordshire Agricultural Society logo up there as well, and the knot is the symbol of Staffordshire. So there will be days, there will be times of year when this is absolutely packed with parades, with the farming community, with the local community wanting to come and sample local and other produce, to admire the best of breed and so on and so forth. So it sort of felt right to come and film just here. It's fairly early in the life of this new rural initiative here in Staffordshire. You suggested that you'd had some successes already. Any of those that particularly come to mind right now, as you think that is just a glowing example of what benefits have accrued and will accrue in the future? Yeah,
so I think, and without obviously can't go into detail around investigations, but I think just even in the first day that we launched the team, they were able to apprehend somebody who we knew was wanted for a number of crimes that we were interested in that had been impacting those communities. So particularly, as I say, acquisitive crime, so somebody had been involved in a number of thefts, so we were able to apprehend them early on, and obviously that's now we'll go through the judicial process, but I think that just demonstrates that just the first day the officers were on the ground, they were able to get a really good positive result.
So your hopes for the future, you've established the team, you've got a dedicated team of 14, you've trained, I think you said 80 officers. How do you see this developing over the coming months and potentially years?
Yeah, so some of the initiatives that we've already launched are we're working with people within the rural community to look at ways in which they can make themselves feel safer. So farm security assessments, and we're rolling that out. We do things like tack marking and tool marking, and using technology around our being able to map where our hotspots are, so be able to focus more through that proactive response. So those are the sort of things that we're starting to work through and starting to develop. So I'd like to see more of that. We're always encouraging more officers to go on the training to be able to know more about rural crime and heritage and wildlife crime, because the more officers that we've got trained in that area, the better for our communities. So I think those are the key things. The dedicated team, that's a proof of concept at the moment. So if it does reap the successes that it is at the moment and that continues, then clearly we would look at trying to expand that and bringing more people on in the future.
Chief Superintendent Emily Clarke, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.